2.
Welcome to the Healthy Brotherhood Experience. I am your co-host, Lucia Boyd, and I have my co-host with me, JT Hale from the ATL, and I'm from the DET. What up, though?
What up, Shouty? Well. Once again, we got some brothers from the Brotherhood on this podcast. I know it's been a minute since Boston Marathon. We wanted to get you guys on. We have all three of y'all from Charlotte, right? I know.
Yeah.
Here and CJ, Darius too.
Yeah.
Introduce Brother CJ Langley, who is the captain for the Charlotte chapter. Congratulations. Brother Tahir Bradley, Charlotte chapter member, and Brother Darius McIntosh. Welcome to the Brotherhood, the Healthy Brotherhood Experience. Glad to have you guys on.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. CJ, how long have you been captain now?
Oh man, it's been 6 months. So I'm still
okay.
I'm still fairly new.
Yeah. It take a minute to grow into them shoes. Kind of big when you first put them on. You keep running in them, man. They're gonna start to fit very soon. Yeah. I know y'all have been part of the Charlotte chapter for a while.
I actually was going to point out, so Darius is our oldest, not in age, but in tenure, our oldest member.
Okay.
So he's been here since the beginning.
I'm a day one. I'm a day one in the Charlotte chapter.
OG.
OG.
For the Charlotte chapter. That's pretty special, man. You know, that's pretty special. You see a lot of changes. So all three of you brothers, plus I know there were some other brothers too, did the Boston Marathon. That ain't no, first of all, marathon is no small feat. We all know this. 26.2 miles for those who don't know. The Boston Marathon, that is one of the major marathons, if I'm not mistaken. And you must qualify to be considered a Boston marathoner. I know they have people that finish in the required time. Those that don't, they don't consider Boston marathoners. Is that correct?
No, I mean, if you finish the Boston Marathon, some people got to do charity or something like that.
Okay.
You're still a Boston finisher, and if you're trying to get the 6 stars, it still counts for you. But some in the running world, they do like to put an asterisk on that if you didn't actually qualify. But that's here or there. You finish a marathon, it's going to be in the books that you finished it. But there's a little asterisk or a stain in some people's minds, how you got into Boston.
Okay. Hey, again, it ain't no small feat. So if you do it, you do it. Ain't no asterisk or no asterisk. So let me ask you guys, what motivated you to want to do the Boston Marathon?
I mean, I guess I'll start. I mean, I've been a runner all my entire life. I mean, Boston wasn't on my trajectory, say about 8 years ago at all. I'm just trying to learn how to run the Boston Marathon. I was an 800-meter guy, 400-meter guy, and a mile guy. So, but I was a middle distance guy, so long distance wasn't really in my mind frame. But 2 things happened. One of my jobs had me live in Boston. I lived in Boston for a couple of years, so I got to see how crazy people really got into just watching the Boston Marathon, and the atmosphere was just different. And it was amazing. Like, I mean, they take the day off. They actually have a full day off in Boston for this marathon, Patriots Day.
Oh, cool.
Then that's like a federal holiday for them. So that's how important it was. And and me getting to the marathon world, I got to a point where I ran like a 3:30 marathon. I say, wait a minute.
Ooh.
If I just put in a little bit more work, I may be able to qualify. And for me, it was a 5-year journey. Once I start something, if I want to achieve something, I'm going to keep going after it until I get it. Brick by brick, chip at it. And I wanted to get in by qualification. One is cheaper because I'm telling you right now, if you try to do it by charity, you got to get like at least $8,000 to $10,000 asking people for money to get in.
Wow.
I'd rather just pay the fee, $250, work hard, get in that way.
Mhm.
And that's what I did. And it took me 5 years, but the last 2.5 years, actually, just to move, because I moved from New Jersey, New York, down to Charlotte, and within that year and a half, thanks to help of Captain on here,
Yeah.
I shaved about 18 minutes within a year to get to the point where I qualified and then be able to run Boston.
That's pretty significant, 18 minutes.
Yeah.
It don't sound like a lot to people that's not a runner, but that's a lot of time.
Yeah, it is.
Mhm, mhm.
Especially
Yes,
time.
it
What about
is.
you, Darius?
Yeah. So for me, and I'll start, and as the hero was saying, people put an asterisk or a stand on that. But I qualifying, that was me in a sense, right? I didn't qualify for Boston, and I don't take anything away from myself for not qualifying. I finished it, I did it, and I'm proud of it. But
Good,
that
man.
a part of that was, I did 2 marathons before. I did Charlotte and Chicago. And I was happy with both of those. I was like, I'm not doing another marathon. I'm satisfied and content. And I said, well, the only other marathon I would do if I got the chance was Boston. But I was kind of like tricking myself because like I knew I would never be able to qualify for Boston. So I was like, if I get the chance for Boston, I'll do it. But I know I probably won't get a chance. But so I worked for Bank of America, and BofA being a sponsor and writing a big check. They had a couple of hundred bibs that they opened up for a company-wide lottery that you can get into by just a random drawing. I submitted for it, and by a long shot, I got selected. I was like, wow, well, here's my chance to run Boston. Are you going to do it? I am going to do it.
Heck yeah.
So that was back in October, November of last year. And I was all right, I'm going to start training for it. And also at the time, I wasn't as consistent of a runner. I kind of like put running on the back burner, and I got more involved in yoga, and I was going through some personal stuff. And by the time that the training came around, I was going through a tough breakup. So it allowed me to kind of put a lot of my energy and focus into training and like trying to take my mind off what was going on. And it reignited the passion for my running. It reconnected me to the brotherhood in a sense. Like I said, I wasn't consistent with my running, and I wasn't going to BMR runs a lot. But this training cycle had me locked in and focused, where I was at BMR runs at least once a week for the twice a week runs. I had this training regimen that I stuck to, and I set a goal of running at sub 4. I hit that, and now the goal is to do more of the world majors. So again, it was just kind of just
Okay.
things that fell into place for me to run.
Okay. Awesome, man. We're gonna talk about training too, but before we get to that, brother CJ, what made you decide, hey, I'm gonna do this Boston Marathon thing, man? What's up with that?
Man, I mean, it goes way back for me, but I unlike to hear, I've not been running all of my life. I think I really started, I would say maybe 2016 is when I started getting more serious about my running. I was on a fitness journey, wasn't really sure where it was going to take me. But I started running marathons. My first one was in 2017. And then by the end of 2018, I remember right before Chicago Marathon, I said, I wonder what this Boston Marathon thing is about. Maybe I should, try to run it, because I was just on a quest to find the next hardest thing to continue to challenge myself, because I believe that that's where the growth is, right? As adults, we don't have to necessarily challenge ourselves like when we're kids, we get tested. It's up to us to test ourselves now. So I said I'm going to set a far out goal and then chip away at it. And so I believe it was April 2019, I hired a coach, started learning more about how to train properly for to improve my times. And I know you said we'll talk about that later. And then just chipped away, man. I mean, it was if I had the thought in 2018, and my first attempt was, well, I wouldn't call it an attempt. I was taking like little steps to get to where I could make a legit run for it. Um, and so, ended up doing my qualifying for the first time in December of 2021. Ran the Boston Marathon in 2023. Um, and then I've been going ever since. So, um, but what I will say, kind of going back, when I ran it the first time, I noticed that we were underrepresented. If you look at my finish line pictures, if you look at the pictures during the race, it was me and then everybody else that did not look like me. And so for me now, it's become more about taking up that space,
Mhm.
um, at the race because we just aren't as well represented as we should be. And so um, in 23, I ran it. I brought the BMR CLT flag, held it up at the finish line by myself. 2024, ran it again, held up the BMR CLT flag at the finish line by myself. And then this year, we got to take a picture where there are three of us there, representing BMR and representing BMR CLT. So
Okay.
it started out as a, sort of a personal thing for me, and it kind of became more of a representation thing for sure.
Awesome. So you're a Boston marathoner veteran, if you will.
Yeah, I guess you would say that.
Yeah.
This was my third time.
Third time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, know that. And so speaking of training, you guys described your training preparing for the Boston Marathon, and was it different than other marathons that you've trained for? Did you find yourself having to do anything different, or did you stick to your same marathon training routine?
I mean, I would say, I'll say for me, it's really nothing different other than we try to train for the course that we're going to be on.
Uh,
For every marathon, you try to train for what kind of conditions you'll probably face. Knowing Boston is hilly, there was a lot of um, hill training involved in our runs, so that we will prepare for not just Heartbreak Hill, but also the downhill section, which actually kills people's legs in the first half of the race, and then Heartbreak Hill, which is actually not the biggest hill. There's actually three
mhm.
others before that, as I discovered for the first time, before you get to Heartbreak Hill. So there's a lot of that goes into training for any marathon, but for this one specifically, there was a lot of emphasis on hill training, and getting used to being uncomfortable, meaning running speeds a little faster than the marathon pace, so that if you have to slow down, you're somewhere near your what your goal pace would be for the marathon, whatever race it is. It's all about preparation, no matter what. 26.2 miles is a task in its own, but there is some, if you want to reach certain goals, that we elevate our training a little bit more specific. And as always, the most important about it is be consistent about what you do and make sure you follow the plan. That's really, for me, that was most important.
Yep. And I'll echo what Tahir said. The hills are important for that race. And it's like no race I've ever run, just the way that the placement of, the downhill and the uphill, it will destroy your legs if you're not ready for it. And so I was doing, like Tahir said, I mean, there's no shortage of hills in Charlotte. So I was making sure that I was out there, running elevation during my easy runs, and then even during my faster runs, I was making sure I was doing those all on rolling hills so that I would be strong for the race. But then to add to that, another thing about Boston and that Boston's notorious for is just the weather. You never know what you're gonna get. Last year it was hot. It was in the 70s. And then the year before that it was raining and in the 50s. And I think we got hail at some point as well. So the weather's crazy. So I made sure that I was going out there when it was hot, or the hottest parts of the day to make sure that I was going to be ready in case if it was hot. And then if it wasn't, then bonus. But yeah, to hear mention, it's just important to kind of think of those things that you may be presented on race day so that you can prepare for them in your training.
I always wonder,
Yeah.
people coming from flat areas, how do they get acclimated and trained for a race that's going to have a lot of hills? What do they do? What can you do?
I'm from a flat space, so I can tell you what we do. You take your treadmill, you put it on number 5 or 6, and you get at it.
I
Yep.
knew Lucai had the answer.
Yep. That
Yeah.
stair climber, parking decks, whatever you need to do to get some elevation.
Yeah, we
'Cause
call that the ghetto hills here in Detroit.
Ghetto hill.
Get in that parking structure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys know,
yeah.
Lucai is also an ultra marathoner, so and a trail runner. He does it all.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there you go. Trail.
Hey, I've listened to you guys. I know.
Oh, see, there you go. Yeah. Darius, what was your training like?
Yeah. So for me, I tell people this was an enjoyable training cycle because, for one, I had been away from running and I hadn't ran or trained for a race in a couple of years, and the marathon obviously had been several years. So having something to work towards and just lock in and have a structured plan, I was excited for that. Just at a minimum, it was like, yo, I got something to work on now. And those elements of running that I had been away from, I was excited about again. Like just having to do hill workouts or doing a tempo run, and all right, now I'm trying out different shoes. Making sure I have my my long run shoe. I got my tempo run shoe now, my rest day shoe. So all of that stuff was exciting because I had been away from it for a while. I wasn't really in that mindset of training and preparing for something. And having CJ, like I said, with his veteran experience, talking to him and getting these tips, him kind of giving me an idea of what to look forward to, what to prepare for. All of that just built up the excitement. And like I said, like I enjoyed this training cycle, just because I was, like I said, it reignited that passion for running and training. And like I said, doing hill repeats may sound crazy, but I look forward to those hill workouts. I look
I like
forward to
hills
those
too.
tempo runs.
I like it too. Yeah.
And with the weather, the last marathon I trained for was Chicago, and it was in October. So I'm here in Charlotte, and I'm training in the summer. I'm training in July and August, and that is not fun training in the summer in Charlotte. So training for a spring race here in Charlotte in January, February, I couldn't have asked for, well, minus a couple of weeks in January when we had some storms. I couldn't have asked for better weather in a training cycle because it was, it was ideal to what we faced in Boston.
Yeah. Wow, that's something, man. I know we mentioned hills. ATL is hilly, Charlotte's hilly, apparently Boston. I haven't been to Boston yet. Apparently it's hilly too. Is that the most challenging part of the Boston Marathon, or is it something else that was like the most challenging thing for this specific race for you guys?
I think it's not the hills themselves. I think it's where the hills are because you don't really get to those hills until like mile 16. So since it's so deep into the race, it's like, wow, like I'm prepared for this, but I'm kind of tired,
Yeah.
and you really start to feel it. Like, I got to a point, hitting mile 16, you're like, oh man, are my hands about to lock up? Like, what's going on here? Like, we hit hills here all the time. Heartbreak Hill in a vacuum is no big deal. But Heartbreak Hill being at mile 2021 of a marathon is a big deal. So that's really for me what the biggest challenge was, like the hill placement itself. Not that you had those hills there, because like Tahir said, I mean, they're really not that big. It's just
Wow.
what they are.
Right. So, even if, and I mentioned that as well. So just imagine, for the first 16 miles, like Darius mentioned, it's rolling, but it's rolling downward. Well, let me back up. The first mile is down. And so you can get overconfident and go out too hard and potentially ruin your whole race. So you got to pace it properly, which I think is the challenge with this race is pacing it properly. Because of that rolling downhill for the first 16. So, you're gradually rolling downhill. And then at mile 16, it's a steep downhill to mile 17. And then that's when you start climbing. And then, like Tahir mentioned, there's four hills. And, my previous two races where I ran it, I was kind of, I'm notorious for kind of zoning out. So it's hard for me to hear, see other things. I'm just focused on what I'm doing. So I didn't know what I knew there were four hills, but I didn't know where I was in the course. And then I saw Heartbreak Hill. I was like, okay, cool. And then that happened for the first 2 years. This year I was able to count. So I knew where I was. But you're just imagine your quads being tired because you've been going rolling downhill. And then now your hamstrings are on fire because now at the point where most people are starting to, get tired at the marathon, they're sending you uphill. And then you get to the top of Heartbreak, and then they're like, okay, now we're gonna roll you down again. And so your legs just don't know what to do. Um, and so proper pacing, I think, is the hardest thing with this race. And it took me 3 times to figure it out.
The same route. They haven't changed the route at all, have you? It's always the same exact.
Hopkinton to Boston.
Wow, man.
Yep.
Ooh. So I know after them rolling hills in that second half, when you cross that filling line, that finish line, what are you feeling at that moment? When you see it coming up, you get close to it, and then you finally cross that finish line. What is that feeling like for a marathon? I know what it's like for a 5K, 10K, and a half marathon.
I
Gotta be a little
mean,
different for a
yeah,
marathon.
well, it depends on the race. I mean, every race has its own feel to it. Like the race that I qualified for had a whole different feeling to it. This was like you made that left on the Hopkins. That for me, it's not that close than you think it is. I see it, and so I stopped looking at it. I just kept hearing the voices of the crowd, and I knew I just got to keep going to finish it. And when I finally finished, it was relief first, and then one of my good friends happened to be there at the finish line, gave me a huge hug, and I just let it out. It was just great. It's a great feeling, and I was like, "Where's my medal?" Because I knew we had a nice medal this year. So, but yeah, and then after I got the medal, the next thing I was like, "What am I going to eat? I'm hungry." Um, but I was like, I checked this off. It was a great experience, but once you get to that point where you see the number 25, you're entering Boston. You know you only got 1.2 miles left. You know you're going to finish. You know you're going to be a Boston finisher. So at that point, it's just like whatever it is, whatever you're feeling, everything numbs up, and you just do whatever it takes to get to that finish line. All that hard work, it pays off. Like they said, the marathon is your victory lap for all the hard work you put in that cycle for. And that's what it is for us.
It's a great analysis.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I think and these guys have heard me say it. What I'm addicted to the marathon finish line feels because I've never felt anything like that. Um, when you train for, months at a time, you make those sacrifices. You're out there when it's cold, when it's hot, when it's raining, when when you could be doing other things and your friends may be doing other things and you're out there sacrificing for that one day for it to all come together at the finish line is like nothing I've ever felt. And then particularly for Boston, they talk about the famous turns, the right on Hereford, the left on Boylston. When you make that left, I mean, the crowd is just crazy. You feel like a rock star. I don't know how else to describe it. And I remember, when I ran it the first time, and there's video, if you look at my Instagram, you can see it. where I'm coming across the finish line and it felt like I had so much energy. I felt like a balloon that was overinflated and it was about to pop, because they were just giving me energy and I could see that finish line. And like Tahir said, I'm like, I've been working for this moment and here it is. So I'm like beating my chest as I'm crossing the finish line and you can see it on the video. It's just an amazing experience. It's for that race. It's like no finish line I've ever crossed. And I know that's cliche, but it's the truth for that one for sure.
It's the Boston Marathon, man.
Yeah.
Lou,
Yeah.
you can relate.
Oh yeah, that's how New York was for me. I haven't done Boston, but New York had that energy feel at the finish line. Man,
Wow.
epic.
Yeah.
It's like electrifying when you there, man. Electrifying. That's why we get addicted to it. We be like, man, you say you're gonna I ain't doing it again, then you get through. You be like, you know what, I could do it faster next year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
New
like
York was my first marathon ever. So that's where my marathon journey started, was New York.
Oh,
Yep. And I'm running it in the fall, so I'll let you know what I think afterward.
I heard a lot of good things about that one. So
it's a trip catching that ferry and you over on Staten Island and you just looking up at the starting line because you like, dude, it start off with a bridge in front of me. Y'all gonna love that, man. I can't wait to hear y'all story on that one.
Yeah, I've been doing Chicago this year, so we'll see.
Okay, we got New York, we got Chicago coming up.
Awesome. Now Chicago at the end, it got right at the last mile. It's gonna be a little speed bump. It got
Yeah, I know.
one.
I've done that one before. I know about
Oh,
that stupid
We've
hill.
all run Chicago
Yeah.
as well.
Veterans, man.
Yeah.
I know about that stupid hill.
That ain't a hill.
Darius got attitude with the
It doesn't need to be there. I mean, the whole
It's
race
random.
is for it to
Why
be
did they
flat. It
put
doesn't
that
need to
here?
be there.
I don't know.
That hill random.
Yeah.
It ain't supposed to be here.
So
I know, but
check
it
it
doesn't
out.
need to be
I know
there.
I know the finish line feeling is got to be astronomical. Is there any other part of the race for you guys that is like the most memorable thing, anything that sticks out?
Yeah,
No,
for
it's
me, it
kind
was Wesley. There's like Wesley College, and also that was probably about, I want to say, almost between mile 10 and 13. I can't remember when. The college comes out for you, and they were screaming. I guess they call it the tunnel, as they call it, but it's almost deafening. But they're there, and then right after you hit Heartbreak Hill, there's Boston College at about mile 21, 22. They're deafening, but then at mile 22.5, as we're going downhill, we have all of I'll say our African American people were out there for us. So we had Black Men Run, we had
Okay.
Mad Miles, we had a couple other ones that were all in the
Pioneers.
one section. Yeah, they're all there for us. For us. So that was great feels, especially when you're back near the city, you try to finish, you definitely want to see them because that gives you extra energy or boost for me anyway. I felt that was great. I don't know about the rest of us, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead, Darius.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, well, like CJ was saying, like, they make you feel like a rock star, surely. And it's like the entire time, like everyone there was cheering for me. Like it really gives you that sense of like all eyes are on you. And that energy from the crowd, how they're there cheering, they come out, it's nothing like it. And to the point about, what Tahir's saying, you've got BMR, you've got the African American groups there. So, I get to that point and I see the BMR tent. I'm like, man, this is an opportunity for me to stop and take a picture with BMR during about the marathon. I ran over there, took my phone out, took a selfie, and that, man, like that feeling was like it was
Awesome.
it was something else, man. I was like, yo. And that gave me like that little, and after, getting over Heartbreak Hill, like after getting through the tougher part of the course, so to speak, I was like, man, that gave me that spark to get through the rest of it. And then there's another point, making that left on Boylston. I took that wide left and I saw the cameraman there. again, another golden opportunity. I hit the Steph Curry on him. The night.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man.
But you know, it was just trying to make it as enjoyable as possible, but also,
Right.
you know, I wanted to balance hard work and
Mhm.
fun, and I think I hit, you know, most of those.
So,
Yeah.
so, you know, to both Tahir and Darius mentioned that, you know, I'm gonna call it the black cheer station. Um, you know, in 2023, there was some controversy around it. It was in a different spot on the other side of the course, you know, and what it was somebody called, and this can sound crazy to y'all, but somebody called the police on the cheer station. They said there was a noise complaint
At a race.
at a race. Yes, sir. And it was a big thing. I mean, you could look it up and see.
I saw
And
on Facebook. I was mad. I said, "What they doing?"
yeah,
That was
yeah.
all over the world showing that mess.
Yeah, yeah. And so then in 24, you know, they came back, but they moved them over to where they are now. And so I remember seeing them in 24, but they still are growing. So they got bigger after that happened in 23. And then this year I was looking for them because I knew about where they were going to be. And like the guy said, it gave me a big boost of energy. I mean, we were all on the left side of the street. I cut over to the right side of the street to make sure they can see me
Mm-hmm.
because, like as I mentioned, there is not a lot
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot of us out there. I'm gonna just say it. And so to see that BMR Boston, shout out to BMR Boston, you know, they know I love them, you know, Mad Miles, Pioneers. I'm trying to remember some of the other groups, but there are several groups who came together for that. It hyped me up to the
That's
point where
awesome.
I was running so hard. I tried to cut back across the street and I started feeling the cramp come. I was like, no, 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 don't do that. You're too close to the finish, you know.
I had that
But
same issue.
yep, but that was what I remember, you know, that's one of my favorite parts of that course now that they're there.
Wow. How do you prepare yourself mentally? I know you guys, you know, we've talked about the physical training. What do you tell yourself? How do you train your mind, first of all, to do 26.2 miles? Secondly, to do the Boston Marathon? What are you telling yourself? You coaching yourself? What are you
For
reassuring yourself?
for me, the mental comes from the training, you know. I always like to say that you're going to suffer no matter what. So where do you want that to be? Do you want it to be in increments throughout the training so that the race is more enjoyable? It's still going to be hard. Or do you want to, you know, maybe not do things as you should during the training and it all come out on race day? You know, but I like to um probably put myself in positions of discomfort, knowing that it's going to come on race day. So, like I mentioned, you know, I'm out there in the rain, I'm out there in the cold, I'm out there in the heat. You know, that mental toughness is very important, and executing during the training gives you that confidence to know that on race day you are capable of performing. So, controlling all the controllables, and then you know, letting go of the rest and just hope that those uncontrollables are, um, you know, not do not hinder you on race day, I'll say.
Yeah. For me, it was two separate things, right? You know, separating training, my mentality during training versus my mentality during race day. You know, for training, you know, I was just in this zone. I was just locked in. You know, like I mentioned before, like I was just going through some stuff personally. That training was an escape. And I just was telling myself, like, there is nothing that is going to stop you from getting this done. Whether, you know, work obligations, I'm going to do what it takes to reach every mileage goal that I have every week, no matter what. So it was just that sense of this focus that I had that uh, got me mentally through the training. But race day was different. It was like we've been talking about the energy from the crowd. Like the mental part of it was I didn't really have to dig into that because I was getting so much energy from the crowd. And my mindset was like, well, I am not going to let these people see me stop. And there are people counting on me to finish this. My family, friends, co-workers, BMR, people are counting on me to finish this. And I have to finish. But again, like that energy from the crowd was vital to that because it's like feeling like everyone is there rooting for you. Like you have no choice but to finish.
Now, is there a crowd throughout the entire route, or is it just different spots?
Not really, because there's some small towns in there. So there were little pockets where there weren't as many people there, which is much different than what you expect from New York and Chicago. And that's fine with me because if you think about it, you prepare for that anyway, because most of our training runs, there's no crowds anyway. So
Right, solo.
you already know how to deal with that. You shouldn't have to feed off of it. It's a bonus when we get that. So that's part of the mental part because you struggle. You're alone on most long runs. So that's where you build that mental toughness, in my mind. We out there. There's times I had to do a 22-mile, and I'm starting out at 5:30 in the morning. It's just me. I have to push through on my own with no extra anything. Maybe I have music, but it's really just you versus you. With your thoughts, your breathing, your feet hitting the pounding, the cadence. It's just you and nature and whatever you want to be with. That's where you build it. If you don't put in the work, you're never going to get that training for it. So if you start to suffer, you won't know what to do. But if you're doing it in training, I always say, like, if you have bad run your training, that's great. I'd rather have it now because now I know how to work through that before I get to race day. A funny thing happened in race day because it was a mistake I forgot to do during the race. I forgot to turn off my notifications to Slack. So what happened was in real time, I'm hearing all my BMR buddies talking about us while we're running. I was like, oh, he's on pace. He's on pace. Oh, what's going on here? I'm like, so that was also extra motivation too. So there were several guys. I was like, oh yeah, he just hit the 10-mile mark. He just hit the 12-mile mark. Look. So that was a little funny and extra motivation that helped as well. But yeah, like I said, during training, like that's where you build that mental toughness. It's really not that hard if you're putting in work consistently to do that. Like I said, most people, we're not going to have groups of 20 people training at the same time doing these runs. Right. There's going to be a lot of runs that you're by yourself. And that's where you build it. That's where you work on it. What works, it doesn't work. Every long run I consider is like a dress rehearsal. Okay, I know this is not going to work, or I know this is going to work. That down to the nutrition that you use during your training run is what you're going to be doing on race day. All of those things are very important. How you deal with mental everything. Like there was a run I did in the winter where I ran through basically a snowstorm doing my hilly workout that was prescribed to me by somebody who's on this podcast right now. No names, but starts with a C, ends with a J. When I finished, when I had snow all over my beard, talk about mental toughness. Those are the seeds that build that, and I think that's very important.
Well, sorry, you know all about that.
Man, they were just building calluses on their head, just like they build it on their hands, man. You got to build them calluses in your head, so in your brain, so you, no matter what, you can still keep going and going. You guys got me pumped up thinking about that, man, because that winter running ain't no joke, especially when it's snowing and then it's melting. You got them icicles going on your eyelashes and everything, man. Those are the best. Those are the best pictures. That's the best pictures, man. Those are the best pictures, man.
Now let's be clear. Now Tahir was visiting home up north when he's talking about what he's talking about. Now down in Charlotte, we don't get a whole lot of that. There may be a few weeks we know where we might get the ice beard, but
I got the ice beard in Charlotte this past year.
yeah, it happens every now and then.
I know we always say race day should really just be another run if you've really been training properly and putting in the work, getting the miles in. Race day shouldn't be anything different other than the number of people you're running with and the crowd, if there's a crowd out there. So that mental thing that's a big thing. You training your mind as well as your body. So for like somebody that's considering, hey man, I think I might want to do the Boston Marathon, not just a marathon, but the Boston Marathon, what's some of the things that you guys would, advise them on?
Hey, I'll tell them to, apply for a job at Bank of America, enter the lottery, again, without having to qualify. Nah, but
that's a good tip. Hey,
hey, look, you got to take your advantages where you can get them. But now I think I would just say, kind of like what it's been kind of the theme of it, and it is just that, understanding what that course is and preparing for that, knowing that you can't really predict like what the weather is going to be on race day in Boston. And you've got these four hills, just based on where they are, that can give you some trouble. And CJ's talking about that rolling downhill. Just keep that in mind, that you might try to go out too fast, and that is a recipe for disaster. So controlling that pace is key.
What I would say specifically, if people are looking to qualify for the Boston Marathon, and let's be clear, a lot of New York, and a lot of the other international world majors are actually harder to qualify for than the Boston Marathon. But we make a big deal about Boston because it's the oldest and all of that. But if somebody is aspiring to qualify for the Boston Marathon and their times may not be anywhere near what they need to qualify, I always say step one is to stop thinking, and I think I've said this to Darius, is to stop thinking that those paces are impossible, because you see people do it all the time. If you think something's impossible, you're not going to be able to do it because you're thinking it's impossible. So instead, come up with a plan, whether that's hire a coach, whether that's mapping out how you're going to attack it yourself, but just come up with a plan and don't try to bite off more than you can chew at once. I like to say that none of us are Superman. We cannot leap tall buildings in a single bound, but we can scale it one floor at a time. So, just be patient, be consistent, be deliberate, be willing to sacrifice. I can't think of anything in this world that I've wanted that I didn't have to do something that I didn't want to do to obtain it. So, be ready for that because it's coming. But the reward is there if that's what you want. And it's not for everybody. And I'll also say that, there's a lot of people out here who define themselves and others by the Boston Marathon, which there's plenty of races, there's plenty of hard things out there. I know, Lucia is an ultra marathoner. That's a different type of hard. That's also hard. There are people out there who, it doesn't define us, but if that's something you want to do, just be prepared to sacrifice, work hard, be consistent over time.
Is it hard balancing your training with your other life responsibilities? As we like to say, life be lifing. Making that training a priority, getting those miles in, and you also got to go to work. This kid has activity over here. He's got soccer. This one's got cheerleading. How do you just make that work? Is it just something you just do it? You just do it?
I mean, like, people say, people will always make the sacrifices for things they really want.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always time management. You can make time for things you want to do.
Amen.
It's not gonna be easy, but you can make time. Like when I first really started this marathon training, I had my young son. He was only maybe a year old. I started doing runs at 3:30 in the morning, so that I'll get back before anybody wakes up, to take care of stuff. I mean, those are sacrifices we have to make. I mean, that's you got to do. If you really want to do it, you find the time. People find the time to go out to a movie right after working 12-hour shifts. So you can make time to go out for a run, to do what you got to do. If it's really that important to you, you'll make time for it.
So here, getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go run. What time are you going to bed?
Probably 9, 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I
Wow.
mean, but it's not every day I'm getting up at 3:30. So it's on certain days. So I can make adjustments based on that. But the good thing about it is when I run those runs at 3:30 in the morning, I know I don't have any run that evening. So it's like I had a day off. So I can make up and rest when I get back home
Yeah.
or work after that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and I believe that we have, you know, uh, a I call it a finite amount of energy, but we can reproduce it and all that. But what I mean by that is, I know for myself that at the beginning of the marathon cycle, I'm good. Work is firing on all cylinders. You
Mhm.
know, I'm going out to dates with my wife, once a week or like whatever, right?
You
As I
better.
get more, that's not necessarily the case, but let's just say that's the case.
Mhm.
And then as things progress, I'm getting deeper into that cycle. She may know that, all right, these things may fall off temporarily because now the scale is kind of tipping, right? Where I'm getting deeper into the training. And my people at work they know what I do. you know, and I have a great relationship with my managers. Like, y'all know I'm gonna get it done, but it may not be here. It may be what we need, but not extraordinary. And then whenever I do that marathon and I'm done, then it starts to shift again. So where I could pick up those other things and give more energy to those other things. I don't think, for me anyway, I can be firing at all cylinders with everything because I'm going to burn out and I'm not going to get any sleep. So it's just a matter of prioritizing based off of where I am in my training cycle.
Yeah, and so I can't really speak, from a family and kids responsibilities perspective. But if you're like me, single and no kids, ain't no excuse. Just get up and get out there and get it done.
I hear you. I hear you. Hey man, kudos to you brothers, man. Y'all completed the Boston Marathon. Y'all are Boston marathoners. Kudos to the rest of our black men brothers out there that did it with you. You represented yourselves, your families, and the brotherhood too, man. Hey, y'all dynamite, man. Y'all are doing it. Want to pivot real quick. I know 2026 is coming up. We're having a national meetup once again in Charlotte, your city. Are any of you guys part of that planning committee?
So I am, of course.
Of course.
And it's to be determined.
Mhm.
What all. So we have an outline of what we would like to do,
Yeah.
and then we just have to make sure that we have the right people aligned to the activities that we want to do. But we're very, very excited about it in Charlotte. I mean, I'm not just talking about leadership. I'm talking about the guys, because everybody's excited about showcasing our city and
Yeah.
what we have to offer. I think it's going to be really, real exciting. So it is. The race is the Charlotte Marathon, hosted by the Run Charlotte group, and it's the Charlotte Marathon. But I mean, there's a 5K, there's a half marathon, and there's a marathon. So there's a distance for everybody. Or just come to spectate, cheer on your brothers. I think it's going to be a great time. But yes, planning is underway, and
Looking forward to it, man.
yeah, there'll be more to come for sure.
Looking forward to it. And is that in November? Do you know?
Yep. So it will be the second weekend, whatever that second Saturday in November is.
Okay.
For next year is when it is. So every 4 years it switches up to the first weekend, but
Okay.
next year it should be the second weekend in November.
Cool. Y'all heard that, so go ahead and put it on your work calendar, your personal calendar. Mark that time off because you don't want to miss this national meetup. If
We
you've never been to a Black Man Run meetup, I always say I can tell you about it, but until you experience it for yourself, because it's more than just showing up and doing a race. The race is merely a part of the weekend. It's a whole lot more than that. And I know Charlotte's working hard. You, Lamar Cousin, shout out, getting it together. And I know the planning process because we did it here in the ATL. So I won't ask you a whole bunch of questions because it's in the being prepared stage. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. So I encourage everyone, if you can, put that on your calendar. Second week, November 2026. Second weekend. National meetup, Charlotte chapter about to blow it up.
Oh yeah, it's going down like 4 flat tires.
Yes, it is, man. Yes, it is. I'm glad you guys were able to come on. We can get you on the podcast. I know it probably won't be the last time for some of you. Appreciate you guys coming and talking about that Boston Marathon. Hell, maybe I'll do the Boston Marathon next year. I don't know.
So you're gonna surely have TJ next year when he does it again next year.
TJ, you making that an annual thing?
Man, like I said,
As much as you can.
I'm trying to take up that space. So, if it happens, then it happens. We'll see. There's a whole nother cutoff process that we didn't talk about. So we'll have to see if I make the cutoff or not.
Okay. Touch on that for us real quick, man.
Okay, yeah. So the best way to describe it is they have enough space for 30,000 runners. So it's the smallest of the world majors
Okay.
when it comes to participation. And the problem is people, there are a lot of fast people out here, right? So
Mhm.
they have an allotment for how many people can get in through charity, through company bibs, and then they have an allotment for qualifiers. And so let's say they have 22,000 spots for qualifiers, but then they have 30,000 people that register that have a Boston qualifying time, that are eligible. So then you have 8,000 more people that applied than space that they have for the race. So then what they do is, they'll look at, the times that people submitted compared to their qualifying time. And essentially they come up with a cutoff. So let's say, so for me, as a 43-year-old man, I need to run a 3:05 marathon or under to qualify, to qualify to register for the race.
Okay. Wow.
Then let's say that after they do their math, that I mentioned, that they say, okay, well, we're going to accept everybody who ran 2.5 minutes under their qualifying time. So for me, that would be what? That would be 3:02:30,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So anybody that is a 43-year-old man that runs slower than 3:02:30, but registered under 3:05, they don't get in. But if I ran
Wow.
under that time, I get in. So there's a
Okay.
qualifier and then there's another
I
time.
see.
So and now what they've done not for 2026 but 2027 is they have looked at downhill courses depending on the level of net descent, and they're adding a factor. So if somebody runs that 3:05 on a course that is 1,500 to, I believe, 4,000 feet of loss, they're going to say, we're going to add 5 minutes to that.
Right, right.
And then And then if you run, I think 4,001 to 6,000 feet of drop, they're going to say we're going to add 10 minutes to your time. You know, so there's all these different things. So it's not an easy, it's not a simple process at all.
Doesn't sound like it, man.
No.
That's some math for you.
Yep. So we'll see what happens.
That's the I don't know if you heard of the Rebel races. They have a whole bunch of downhill marathons. Most of them are out west. I ran one of them, but your paces are a lot faster because you're going 20 miles downhill.
Wow.
Yeah, but your quads will feel that for sure.
Oh, no doubt. They be on fire.
It's pretty interesting you say that because yesterday I got an email from Rebel Cottonwood in Utah.
Yeah.
There are 50 people from being sold out, even after all that news.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So people are still doing it.
Yeah, I did Charleston in Las Vegas myself.
I did that one last April.
Oh, that was a good one. You did that one too. Cool.
Yeah, we were staying out there in the snow. Talk about craziness.
It was freezing. It was freezing at the start line.
Yeah, it was real field temperature of I think 12 when we started.
Oh,
in the desert. I was like, dude, what's up?
It gets cold in the desert.
The night before we stayed in the snow. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And then we finished. I think it was like 40 to 50 degrees when we finally got down to into the mountain, out in the mountains. I'm like, but still, I'm like, I didn't expect it to see snow or be that cold out there at all.
Right, man, that's a trip. Small world.
Yeah, it is. I was there.
Hey, we appreciate you, brothers, man.
Yeah,
Lucia.
Yeah, it was awesome having you all on the show. I'm looking forward to getting ready for the Charlotte Marathon so I can see you guys in the flesh. And we really enjoyed this. We're going to have to get you guys back on for another episode. And you all have just experienced the Brotherhood.
The Brotherhood.